Hi, I'm Dave from Soft Shuffle, and this is an introduction and overview of Soft Shuffle. So Soft Shuffle is a product I designed to make it easy to randomize a deck of cards when it is difficult to shuffle, but also to be sure that you have fully randomized a deck of cards. It came about due to my love of board gaming, so quite often we will have a large deck of cards or sleeved cards or cards that are weird shapes and sizes, all of which can make it quite difficult to shuffle that deck. We also have deck-driven games, so games where you have a deck of cards, often constructed at the beginning of the game, that is the primary driver of the game. And with those you want to be very sure you have fully randomized the deck, whatever the starting state. So Soft Shuffle works by having a labeled mat like this, and you take your deck and deal it out, generally twice. You are dealing it out to a set of instructions generated by your phone, generated using a cunning algorithm I came up with, and that's it. So you deal, gather, and you're done. It works based on a couple of realizations I had. So the initial one was your phones are very good sources of randomness. They need to be for the way a lot of modern internet security works. And my thought was it must be possible to use this to help you randomize a deck of cards. After a lot of thinking and testing, I worked out a variation on pile shuffling, which I tend to call pile deal. And the big realization with that is that as long as you are dealing to a number of piles that is at least the square root of the number of cards you're randomizing, you can fully set a deck to any permutation you want. So you've got the ability to generate a random ordering on your phone and the ability to make that happen. Now there is a slightly more general algorithm that I worked out, which I'll discuss later. Okay, so what's in the video? Well, first I'm going to have a look at where you can try Soft Shuffle, where you can get the mats if you want to. I'll then talk a bit about what's the trade-off, is there a catch? Then we need obviously a demo of Soft Shuffle in action, and after that I'll have a bit of background, how did I get here with Soft Shuffle, and I'll follow that up with a tech demo, so a bit of a demo of why the dealing out to an order works. And finally, I'll talk about the plan, what's next for Soft Shuffle. Now, as well as this video, this intro overview video, there is a usage video, which is a full how-to of how to use Soft Shuffle. And that also has a bit of discussion about when and how I use Soft Shuffle and when I don't, because although I am very keen on Soft Shuffle, it is not an attempt to gatekeep how people randomize a deck of cards. It is an attempt to offer an alternative way to make it easy to randomize a deck of cards when it's difficult to shuffle. That video is also accompanied by a deep technical video, so it's a deep dive into exactly how and why the algorithm works, so how I can back up the claim that Soft Shuffle fully randomizes a deck of cards. So maybe at this point you're like, let me at it, I want to go. In which case, please go to softshuffle.co.uk and there is a shuffler page there, which is how you use Soft Shuffle. So we usually use it with a nice neoprene mat like this, with alphanumeric labels. But if you want to grab a piece of cardboard and a pen and give it a try, I fully encourage you. I designed Soft Shuffle to make my life easier and to make other people's lives easier. If you do want a mat and you want to support Soft Shuffle, they are available. They should be available by the time this video is released, and there are details on softshuffle.co.uk, as well as this 10 pile mat, which will do 100 cards in 2 passes or 1,000 in 3 passes. There is this big 21 pile mat, which will do 441 cards in 2 passes, which is probably anything you're ever going to need. So yes, please have a go. Now you might be asking yourself, what's the catch? Well, there isn't a catch, there is a bit of a trade-off. If we're going to deal our deck out twice, the cost is going to be that we have to deal the deck out twice. Now obviously that's going to take slightly longer than riffling them, but the benefits are quite large and usually are worth it. So the big bonus is that you can be sure you have fully randomized the deck of cards, which you more or less can't be sure of with riffling. You can do it a lot of times, but it's not going to be fully random. As well as this, it is often quite difficult to riffle or mash cards. A deck like this, it's just a struggle, and that is why I originally created this. Like, there's limits to what I can do to riffle or mash a deck that big. It could be that you actually find it quite difficult to riffle or mash cards. There are decks and sleeves which I find don't work with mashing and don't really work very well with riffling either. It could be you are using those teeny tiny cards that lots of board games use that I cannot riffle, I cannot mash, I cannot do anything useful with any reasonable number of. But with Soft Shuffle, I just deal them out twice and I'm done. I can get on with my game. Given that, let's have a look at a demo of Soft Shuffle in action. Okay, so how do we use Soft Shuffle? Well, the first thing we do is we pick which mat we're going to use, and there's both these 21 pile mats and these smaller 10 pile mats, which we will use for this demonstration. We then get our deck of cards and we get our phone and we navigate to softshuffle.co.uk and the shuffler page, and there are these helpful QR codes on each of the mats to take you there. Okay, from there we input our settings and follow the instructions on screen. So we put in the number of cards we're using, the mat configuration we're using, the number of rows of output we want. We then click check settings, check the settings, say we're good, and click randomise deck. Okay, and now we deal them out based on the instructions on screen. So we navigate those using the next and the previous button. So we start to deal out according to the instructions. We then gather in the direction shown on screen. And we deal out again. We then gather in the direction shown on the screen, which is the opposite one. And you're done. Your deck is now fully randomized. Okay, so how did I get here? How did Soft Shuffle start? So this all started about 2 years ago at a games night where we were playing my favourite game, a popular cat-based polyomino game with a 150 card constructed deck. So you take modules, add them into the deck at the beginning of the game and then have to randomise it. And being my favourite game, I have sleeved the cards. So 150 sleeved cards, looks like this. And the problem is I can't randomise this or shuffle it to any meaningful degree. Or I can split it down into 2 or 3 subdecks and I can just about riffle and mash those. But what does that get me and why am I not happy with it? So with a 52 card deck, it is a general view that you can get a good level of randomness with 7 riffles, so 7 riffles and overhands. Get to the point where you can't predict where any of the cards are going to be. Fine, but I don't have 52 cards, I have 150 cards. Being generous, let's assume it's only linear, So my 7 riffles now needs to be 21 riffles, and if I'm going to have to split that down into subdecks, 2 or 3 subdecks, that's 42 or 63 riffles. I'm not going to do that. It also doesn't give me full randomness. It gives me good randomness, or good enough randomness, but what I consider full randomness, is whatever the starting state of the deck. So let's say I've ordered it so that I can put the modules on top. I want to do something that at the end, each and every output permutation, so each and every order that is possible, and there are a lot of them with 150 factorial, I want each to be equally likely. But wait, I have a software academic and industrial background that includes a bit on randomness and sampling, and I have a phone, and I'm looking at my phone and I'm going, I can use that to generate a random ordering. There is a well-known algorithm, Fisher-Yates, it's a leak code problem solution that lets you generate a fully random ordering in a linear time. And I have a phone and I have a deck of cards, so why can't I use my phone to make my deck of cards fully random? And then I'm thinking, well, I actually should be able to do this. I have the right background. So I started thinking about it. And so for about a year, I was mulling this over, taking us to about a year ago from when this video is recorded. And in that time, I was looking at various ways of dealing cards out. And in that time, I got to the point where I realized how you would use 10 piles to set 100 cards to any order. I talk about that elsewhere. And I went, yeah, well, that worked. Right, I need to work out the general case now, and I need to make it available to people. So the last year I sat and I worked out the underlying mathematical relationships that make that work. So I worked out the general case where you can do different numbers of passes, different numbers of piles, and different numbers of cards. I started with a cardboard prototype of the mats, and then I made a neoprene version with my airbrush, and then I designed these and got the prototypes made. I recoded 4 or 5 times, went from Python to JavaScript, made it into a usable web page, tested it, turned it into a usable website, tested it. And now we have got to this point where it is ready and available for people to use. So yeah, that is how I got to this point with Soft Shuffle. Okay, so why does Soft Shuffle work? Now, the easiest way to demonstrate this is to use a very specific instance of the 2-pile shuffle. So it's very specific in that we are using a mat with exactly 10 piles and exactly 100 cards, which means that the numbering of our mat and our cards lines up with our normal decimal counting system. So we have 10 piles, and they are labelled 0 to 9, and 100 cards labelled 0 through to 99. Now, you'll notice that this way around, these cards are in order. The numbers are from 0 up to 99. That's just to show us the original order. So the original order, as I flipped it over, is 0 on the bottom, 99 on the top. The new order, however, is red numbers. And so we want to deal to this new order. We want to make these numbers be 0 at the bottom to 99 at the top. And because we've generated this order randomly, that will randomize our deck of cards. So for the first pass, we are going to sort by, and this is a partial sort, the first digit. And in the second pass, we're going to deal by the second digit, or the tens value, so tens and ones. This works because the 2-pass version you can think of as dividing the position we want it to end up by the number of piles. But we've set the number of piles to 10, which means we don't have to do any difficult maths on each card ourselves. We can just look at what is the number of the card divided by 10, look at the remainder. What is the number of the card divided by 10, look at the quotient. And it works the same for the general 2-pass case, even if we have, for example, 9 piles and 0 to 8. It's just that we would have to divide 85 by 9, and that is going to break my brain very quickly. Now, the full general case, where we do anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4 or 5 or how many passes, isn't quotients and remainders, it's modulo of a division. It just happens that it cancels down to quotient and remainder for 2-pass and is a lot easier to understand what's going on. So okay, let's get dealing. And a little bit of supplementary voiceover from me. So first deal, so we're dealing by the ones value or the remainder if we divide by 10. And the thing to notice with this is the cards are accruing in piles at different rates. So some piles might have 2 or even 3 before any go into some of the other piles. Now, this is because obviously the numbers are random, as in the ordering is random. So if we are sorting them and we are partially sorting them, they are going to be accruing at different rates. So the other thing you might notice is me occasionally pausing while I'm doing this. It is actually quite difficult to do this compared to soft shuffle, because for each number you have to look at the number, go, which pass am I doing, so which of the digits do I care about, and then the piles are numbered rather than letters for row and numbers for column, which means you have to work out is it top or bottom of the pile. So it's non-trivial to do this, and it's actually much easier to do soft shuffle because you just look and deal to that space. And now we'll fast forward through the rest of this, and we'll slow down towards the end of this first deal. Now we've finished the first deal, and we can look at the cards in pile 0, and you can see it is all of the zeros, so first digit is 0. We now collect them up or gather them. I call this gathering forward because we are gathering from piles with an ascending number. And we can start the second deal, so dealing by the second digit or tens value or quotient if we divide by 10. And I'll just pause it here. So you can see that we now have all of the zeros and they are ordered, so 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. And if we carry on, we can see that we are now doing the ones. And you quite possibly at this point are starting to guess where this is going, because we're going to end up with exactly 10 in each pile, and because we have ended up with the zeros at the top of the deck in the first deal, so for the beginning of the second deal, we are going to stratify all of the zeros, and then we stratify all of the ones, and then we stratify all of the twos. And if we only have as many stratifications as our number of digits, because we're doing decimal, we then have fully stratified the deck. So yes, I'll fast forward through the rest of this. And slow down as we end up dealing out the nines. And there we go, and we can see that in 0 we have the numbers 0 to 9, and they are nicely ordered. And look at the other end, and we've got 90 through to 99. And so it is simply a case of gathering these back up, but we gather them backwards, so descending numbers. that's it. We have fully sorted this deck by the red numbers. So 99 at the top, 0 at the bottom. And just to show what we've done, we will take a look at the black numbers, which it was ordered by originally. And compared to those now appear to be in a random order because we have randomized the deck, because we have dealt it to a random order. Hopefully that made sense, and if you would like to understand a bit more, especially around the general algorithm, see either the technical video or the technical page on softshuffle.co.uk. So what's next for Soft Shuffle? What is the plan? I don't really know when you're watching this video. So you might be watching it the day I upload it, or you might be watching it in a year's time. Given that, probably the best thing is to go to softshuffle.co.uk. But assuming that you are watching this in the early days, as things stand, I've got it to the point where it is ready for people to use and provide feedback. So the mats are ready and available on softshuffle.co.uk. There is both the 10 pile mat and a 21 pile mat. And a 21 pile mat will do you 441 cards in 2 passes, which should be enough for any game, but I'm sure someone will come along and tell me where I'm wrong. As it stands, the piles are denoted by alphanumeric labels. This works well. I mean, I've been testing it for the last year, but there are obviously lots of interesting things we could do with it. So we could animate those labels, we could do pictorial labels, could do audio things. There are also a few more hardware ideas I've got. There are also some funky game design opportunities it gives. As it stands, I am at the point where I've self-funded it to get here, and I'm happy with where things are. If I want to carry on, I realistically need to crowdfund. I'm not quite sure which crowdfunding option I will use, so the answer to that will probably come from community engagement. Fundamentally, I'm confident that Soft Shuffle is some use to some people. What I don't really know is how much use to how many people. I know it's useful for me, so I'm confident that some people will find it useful though. So I'm putting it out there for people to try, and I encourage you to go and try it. Go and grab a piece of cardboard and a pen and go to softshuffle.co.uk and give it a go. I appreciate feedback, be that on this video or through the website or through social media. If you want to support it, great. Buy a mat if you're interested. I hope to have other ways of supporting in the future, but fundamentally go and try it. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope Soft Shuffle is as useful for you as it has been for me in testing.